A person in their 20s can make a decent salary, live in a city, and still end up with almost nothing to show for it. Another person can earn less, spend more intentionally, and quietly build a life that becomes dramatically easier by the time they hit 30. The difference usually is not income. It is not intelligence either. It is the quality of the things they choose to spend money on. Most people think spending is about comfort or status. In your 20s, that is a costly misunderstanding. This is the decade where money does not just buy things. It buys options, resilience, speed, and in some cases a completely different future. The problem is that the best purchases are rarely the most impressive-looking ones. They are usually boring, invisible, or easy to dismiss as unnecessary. That is why so many people get this wrong. They spend heavily on things that look like success, but barely change their life, and they underinvest in things that create compound returns for years. The first thing worth spending on is sleep. Not because sleep is glamorous, but because it affects almost everything else you do with money, time, and judgment. The cost of poor sleep is not just fatigue. Studies consistently link sleep deprivation to worse decision-making, higher impulsivity, and lower productivity. That matters financially because your 20s are full of small decisions that look harmless in isolation. Ordering takeout again, skipping exercise, buying on impulse, missing work performance, ignoring opportunities. A tired brain is not just a weak brain, it is an expensive brain. People often think they are saving money by cutting corners on sleep with cheap mattresses, bad schedules, or noisy environments. In reality, they are often paying for it through lower income potential, worse health, and more bad decisions than they can easily count. The second thing worth spending on is health, especially the kind that prevents future damage. This is where most young adults make a hidden trade-off they do not fully see. In your 20s, the body is forgiving enough to let you ignore it. That creates the illusion that neglect is free. It is not. It is deferred. Medical research has long shown that lifestyle patterns established earlier in life tend to shape long-term risk for chronic disease, and the economic side of that is just as important. Skimping on food quality, exercise, dental care, or preventive checkups may save money this month, but it increases the likelihood of larger costs later, both financial and personal. A dental issue left alone can become a root canal. Back pain ignored can become chronic. Poor nutrition and inactivity can become the baseline you eventually have to spend far more to reverse. The real insight is that health spending in your 20s is often not consumption. It is maintenance of future earning power. The third thing worth spending on is your work environment and the tools that support it. People underestimate how much career growth depends on friction. A slow laptop, a bad chair, a cheap internet connection, a disorganized workspace, or constant distractions do not sound like major financial problems, but they quietly tax your output every day. If you think about the math, even tiny inefficiencies become massive over time. Losing 20 minutes a day to preventable friction is more than 120 hours a year. That is 3 full work weeks. For someone building skills, a business, or a professional reputation, those hours are not trivial. They are the raw material of advancement. This is why spending on a better computer, a second monitor, noise cancellation, a standing desk, or even a more functional place to live can be rational long before it feels luxurious. The point is not comfort for its own sake. The point is reducing drag on the activities that increase your future income. The fourth thing worth spending on is learning, but not in the abstract school-like sense many people imagine. Most young adults are told to invest in themselves, yet they interpret that as collecting certificates or buying courses they never finish. The more useful version is targeted capability building, spending money on a skill that genuinely compounds. Whether it is writing, data analysis, sales, coding, design, public speaking, or another marketable ability, can be one of the highest return uses of cash in your 20s. The reason is simple. Skills do not just create one paycheck. They reshape what jobs you can access, what problems you can solve, and how fast you can adapt when the economy changes. Research on labor markets repeatedly shows that earnings rise disproportionately for people who can do scarce, valuable work, but this only works when the spending is tied to actual market demand and deliberate practice. The hidden mistake is assuming all education is equal. It is not. Buying credentials for social comfort is very different from buying capability that raises your earning ceiling. The fifth thing worth spending on is relationships, but carefully and strategically. This does not mean lavish dinners or constantly paying for social image. It means spending on the relationships that enlarge your life and protect you from bad choices. In your 20s, friendships often determine the trajectory of your habits, opportunities, and even your identity. Economists and sociologists have repeatedly observed that networks matter. People find jobs through acquaintances, get referrals through trust, and learn norms by proximity. A strong relationship can also prevent costly isolation, burnout, and short-sighted thinking. This is a subtle category because the return is not immediate and not always measurable. But if you compare two people with equal income, the one with a healthier network often has better information, better support, and more access to opportunities that never get posted publicly. Spending money here is not about image. It is about participating in the social infrastructure that makes future success easier. The sixth thing worth spending on is experiences that expand your perspective, especially travel or time in unfamiliar environments. This is often criticized because it sounds indulgent, and sometimes it is. But the strongest case for it is not pleasure. It is calibration. People who spend their entire 20s in one bubble often develop distorted assumptions about what is normal, what is possible, and what they actually want. Exposure to different cities, cultures, industries, and standards of living changes the reference point from which you make decisions. That can have financial consequences. It may help you choose a lower-cost city, a better career path, or a lifestyle that fits your actual values instead of the ones around you. The mistake is turning travel into consumption theater. The opportunity is using it to gather information about life, work, and yourself that cannot be learned from a spreadsheet. The seventh thing worth spending on is convenience that protects your attention. This is one of the most misunderstood categories because frugality is often treated as a virtue in itself. But your 20s are not just a time to save money. They are a time to build momentum. If a service, subscription, delivery option, automation, or administrative shortcut genuinely frees up hours or reduces cognitive load, it may be worth far more than its price tag. The hidden cost of trying to do everything manually is not just time, it is mental depletion. Decision fatigue is real. The more low-value decisions you force yourself to make, the less capacity remains for high-value ones. Paying for convenience becomes rational when it preserves focus for work, learning, relationships, or health. The trap is buying convenience that merely makes laziness easier. The useful version is buying back attention. What ties all of this together is a deeper principle most people miss. In your 20s, the best spending is rarely about making life look better. It is about making life work better over time. That is a very different standard. A new outfit may improve perception for a night. A better mattress, a skill, a healthy body, a strong network, or a more efficient work setup can alter the next decade. This is why conventional budgeting advice often fails young adults. It treats spending as if every dollar has the same purpose. It does not. Some dollars consume the present. Some buy comfort, some buy status, and some buy future capacity. The key is learning to distinguish between them. That distinction matters because your 20s are unusually sensitive. You are close enough to the beginning that small decisions compound, but old enough for those decisions to have real consequences. A few $100s spent on the right thing can influence your income, health, or freedom for years. A few $100s spent on the wrong thing disappears without leaving much behind. The hardest part is that the best purchases often feel boring at the moment they are made. But boring is not the same as small. Often it is the opposite. So the real question is not whether you should spend money in your 20s. You should. The question is what kind of future each purchase is actually creating. When you understand that, money stops being just a tool for getting through the month. It becomes a way of shaping the decade. And that is the difference most people never fully see.